Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
There you are. I am Allan Beswick. This is the Allan Beswick Late Night Phone-In. We are here until 1 o'clock in the morning. The telephone number, if you wish to join us, is 0800 218 2255, and you will be more than welcome. We're always pleased when people call. So, 0800 218 2255. The subject matter, you choose that, not us, not me, just you. Something you want to talk about, good, so do we. You want to sing, you want to tell a joke, please try and make it funny. Please do so. You know, it's your airwaves as well as mine. You've paid for them. In fact, you're paying me, which is very kind of you, although it's not enough, if I may say. 0800 218 2255, and, well, that's it, really. Yeah, not really got much else. Yeah. The team tonight, well, we have Jane in charge, we have Marlon taking your calls, we have Jason working the buttons, and you have me, Allan Beswick, talking live from home. And this week, Dominic Raab, MP, has said that he's quitting the job at the next election for the sake of his family. I could name about 500 others who should have quit, at least, well, for the sake of the country, perhaps. What an unholy mess they've created between the 650 of them in Parliament. A report this week says that a third of working mums would give up their job like a shot, if only they could. I wonder if the same survey asked whether they would carry on working if the kid's father would give up his job, or even just put the bloody bins out once in a while. Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, is quoted as saying in an interview that a woman can have a penis. Some merely say it proves he is one. Me, I've no idea. I really don't know. As far as I'm concerned, whatever people want to do with their swippy swappy, it's up to them. They do it with their floppy. I don't care. It's none of my business. Be whatever gender you feel like being. I don't mind. Andrew Marr is whining because the BBC didn't use his pre-recorded obituary of the late Queen when she died. But by then he'd left the BBC. Perhaps he should have thought about that before he sold out to the gambling promoters. And the BBC are about to make a programme that examines the claim that Shakespeare didn't write all those plays and sonnets and stuff, but that they pinched them, or at least they were attributed to him wrongly. I can't wait. It's going to be a laugh a minute, that, isn't it? Go blimey. And Philip Schofield's life is falling apart before his and our eyes. It's easy to mock. But please, just for a second or two, give a thought to the fact that he's lived in the media goldfish bowl since he was a teenager. The media is no place to grow up. It's full of people who push you and pull you in every direction but yours, just so that they can get ahead. Telly or radio, it's not the hardest job in the world, sitting here talking at you. It's not. But for many, at the pointy end, it's the hardest job to live with. Just a thought. Elton John, of course, who had his own issues, summed it all up. The whole sorry mess that Mr. Schofield wasn't a complete and utter buffoon, idiot about the way he behaved, but just, you know, it's not a tough job, but it's a tough life for people in that kind of position. Oh, come on, just a sliver. A sliver. I'm not asking you to care, just a sliver. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, that's fine. Pick up the phone, have your say. Talk about absolutely anything. We're here till 1. How do Enid? Hello, Enid.
Hello, Allan. How are you?
I'm awfully well, thank you.
Yes, long time no hear.
Okay, right.
Yes, I want to sing.
Right.
I don't know how it's going to sound. Yes.
No. Well, we'll find out. Hmm?
Oh, yes, yes. Shall I carry on?
You might as well.
Okay. Here we go. I know know that someday you'll want me to want you, but I'll be in love with somebody new. You expect me to be true and keep on loving you, although I'm feeling blue. Darling, you'll want me to want you. That's it.
Right. Well, thank you very much for the song, and who knows, possibly even the sentiment. Thank you. Do have a good night. Cheers. 0800 218 2255 if you wish to. We'd like to get off with a jolly song. How do, Ray?
Hi, Alan. I'd like to talk about are mums overprotective than dads? I always say I think mums worry more about their kids than dads do. You know, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I suppose they certainly appear to, in general. I mean, these kind of statements are always general, aren't they? They certainly appear to. But we don't know how much the father is, if you like, swallowing his concern in order to help support the demonstrative concern of the mother. But it's just a guess. I've no idea.
See, I always say I think mums, like, have that caring instinct. I always say mums have more that empathy than dads do. Like, dads don't really, like, they're not very good at consoling their kids. Dads, like, mums are very good at consoling.
It's a generalisation, and those always end up being wrong, if you like, but I can't think of an alternative that would be right. Yes, it is certainly in our culture that the caring role seems to fall most often to the mother rather than the father.
See, I always say, I think, like, I'm sure your mum was more worried when you were going out with your mates than probably your dad was. I'm just guessing.
I don't know. My father, most of the time, was at work, so he wasn't in a position to demonstrate his worrying. Mind you, he didn't worry. He wouldn't worry about anything. He wasn't a worrier. But whether he was less concerned than my mother, I don't know. When I was about 11, I broke my leg, and he was the one that came with me to the hospital. And you would not have, I was too concerned about the pain I was in, like kids are, but I couldn't perceive of him being in any way concerned, because his role there was to support me, if you like. But years later, my mother told me that once they took me off him and took me into the ward to put my legs straight and all the rest of it, he had to go and walk around the park, Bank Park as it's called, because he couldn't cope. he was having to deal with something he really didn't want to deal with. So I don't know. It's hard to know, isn't it?
But don't you hear when dads say to, like, their sons, or get up now, stop being a baby or something like that? But mums would be more like saying, you all right, and give them a hug. Dads won't really do that.
Yeah, again, it's hard to know, isn't it? We only know what we see. We don't know what's going on in their minds. So, yes, evidentially, women manifest their emotions, not just about their children, but manifest their emotions generally, more noticeably than do men. But that doesn't mean men aren't feeling it exactly the same, but are dealing with it in a different way, for whatever reason.
I always say, like, you know, like with women, like you always get like a woman who works in the nursery. It's very rare you get men who work in nursery. I always say I think it's because women have that patience with with children, because they're more likely to, like, tell the child to settle down, whereas a man might start shouting if the children are running around.
Well, again, there's history behind that. There was a time when women couldn't get jobs productive jobs, as it were, and so they took the caring roles. I mean, there was a time, for example, when if you were a nurse, a female nurse, that is, and you got married, you had to leave. You said, we don't want married women here, you'll have to go. The men, when there were very few male nurses, but when they got married, they didn't have to leave. But the women did.
Yeah.
So it's society. It's as much about what society imposes on each of the genders rather than the difference between the genders, if you like.
See, that's the thing, but that's what my perspective is. Other people might, science might agree with me. I don't know, maybe scientists might agree with me on what I'm saying. I don't know.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible.
Because that's what I mean. It's always like, I think women, I don't know, I think women have got more patience than men. I don't know whether that statistics might be right.
I can hear women saying that's because we have to live with men, whereas men have to live with women, so the women need more patience. But maybe that's just I've spent too much time with strong women.
Yeah, that's the thing, Alan. I think but I think that shouldn't have to change. You shouldn't have to expect men to do what women do, have that empathy the same way as a woman. It's how the characteristic traits are, isn't it?
Well, again, we shouldn't expect a woman to behave like a man or a man like a woman. But in the end, what really matters is that each individual, whatever their gender, is free to care and behave in the way that is most comfortable for them.
I'll say one thing is that it's very rare for a dad to be a single parent. It's usually mothers that are left to look after the children on their own. The dads tend to be absent and walk out.
Well, again, statistically, more men are the main breadwinner in a family than the woman. Not always, but in the main, that is the case. So if the relationship is broken and one of them has to leave the family home, then it would be difficult for the woman to leave the family home and the man to give up the role of breadwinner and become the carer at home. The money that the woman would then earn would be unlikely as much as the man, so the family would suffer financially. And quite often relationships break up because men are driven far more often by their willy than women are.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like if a woman did not want to know the child, I think society would frown upon that more than the dad would, I believe.
Well, certainly that is the case. If a woman says publicly that she doesn't want to have children, she wrongly, but she has some explaining to do. Society are not very keen on that position at all. It's changing, but not very quickly. But good on you, Ray. Interesting subject, thank you. 0800 218 2255 to join us. How do Ted?
Well, John, kids, just to say, the song you played before with Ellen done about Norma Jean?
Yes.
Well, the story goes in what happened to her is that her mother was mentally ill. It was Marilyn that was mentally ill.
Right. They could both have been, couldn't they?
Could have both have been, yeah, but it was Marilyn that it was really Marilyn that was mentally ill.
Okay.
And you know what I mean? Like I said, Alan, I said this, there was a sun at one time. No, everything was growing on the earth. Like anything, it was humoured, and everything was grown like anything, giant people and all that. And now the son that we've got now is made just smaller and whatever. You believe that?
Do I believe it? No. But you clearly do, and that's good enough for you.
Okay. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, kid. Thanks, everybody.
Ta-da now. 0800 218 2255. I mean, I have to tell you, I'm astounded by that. I thought the moon was made of green cheese. How do, Liz?
Oh, dear, Alan. Yeah, you crack me up every week. Can you hear me?
I can, yes, thank you. What would you like to talk about, Liz?
I was just wondering, as you're off to Canada for a month, whether you're going to be able to catch the pearl fishers, because the Upper North are doing a tour, aren't they, with the pearl fishers?
I don't know, but I wouldn't, I hesitate to say this, I wouldn't go and see the opera, the pearl fishers, because it's rubbish.
Oh,
The aria is brilliant. The rubbish. I think the opera's dull, but the aria is the best sound one can hope to hear.
Right. Oh, I know. I thought you were. I thought you were a bit of an opera buff, but
yeah, I do. I wouldn't call myself a buff. I do like opera. I like it a lot, and I do go to the opera. And if I was around, I probably would go. If I was around and available, I probably would go to the Pearl Fishers. I don't know, but it's not a good opera in my view. I think it's utterly dull.
Sorry? I think they're doing the Bridgewater Hall and various other venues throughout the north, like Harrogate and Gateshead and places like that.
Yeah.
From May 31st. So when is it you're off?
Well, I'm away. I'm here next weekend, 1st and 2nd of June, then Vamouche. Vamouche.
For the wilds of Canada.
Yeah, well, not all the wilds. I believe the airport's by a city. I don't think it's in the middle of a prairie or some such. But yeah, it should be good. Sorry?
Have you been before to Canada?
No, I've never been before, no.
Oh, so it's going to be a whole new experience.
Well, every day's a new experience, isn't it? Really?
Yes.
So,
completely different country with completely different culture.
Well,
sounds fabulous.
It does sound fabulous. So, I mean, it's just another place. They're always different and they're always exciting wherever you go. Really.
Go somewhere for a month. Do you plan it meticulously?
No. I mean, you have to, if you're staying in hotels, and we are, you have to book the hotels because you can't just rock up and hope to get one. But so if you're doing a tour like we are on this occasion, yes. But normally when we go on holiday, no, we just book somewhere and we usually rent a house. So we then doesn't matter then. Just.
Are you hoping to travel around quite a bit?
Well, we will be travelling a little bit. I mean, it's so big. I was looking, we're going on a train called the Rocky Mountaineer or something that's supposed to be...
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Well, it does, yeah, it does sound spectacular. We're going on that, and that takes you through the Rockies to some town called Jasper. And then we thought, well, we'll hire a car and drive back to Vancouver. It's going to take 2 days.
2 days?
2 days. People have neighbours 150 miles away, apart from me in Canada. Like bloody Australia.
Some gas stations that you can get.
Indeed, I'm sure there will be. But anyway, it'll be fun. What the hell? You run out of fuel. You call somebody, they bring you some. It's easy.
And but you're swerving Niagara Falls, obviously.
Well, it's on the other side of the country than where we're going, so yes. But I wouldn't.
And you don't like the way it's...
I don't like it. No, it's a bit like it's a bit like going to
Lily.
Yeah, it's just a tourist attraction now, which is nothing wrong with that, but it's not for me.
No, not worth it. Well, have a wonderful time. And
I'll do my best, but it's a while off yet. I've got another weekend here, but thank you very much, Liz. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. How do, Brian?
Good evening, Alan. How are you?
Good evening. Very well, thank you.
Nice to speak to you anyway. I've got a query for you for all the compulsory towards you.
Okay.
And see if you can give me some assistance with your broad knowledge. In the pandemic, in the end of 2020, I was discharged from hospital with no legs and nothing in place, no equipment. And 2 months after coming out of hospital, I was told if I needed anything or wanted anything, I had to do it myself. And if I got stuck, ask my GP. And they didn't want to get involved with the community. So I said, okay, I asked my GP. They don't know what to do to help me. And it has been like that since then. I've tried numerous phone calls to different people throughout the last 2 years and threw blanks everywhere. And now it's come to a point where they told me to go away. You can't do nothing. So I wondering if that's the case. I can't do nothing.
Well, the first thing, it'll sound like a stupid question, I apologise in advance for that, but what is it that you want done?
I would like just some equipment so I can get out of bed. I took me 10 months to get a wheelchair and a hoist after coming out of hospital. Okay, somebody has to lift me out of bed and put me in it. And that's awkward because when I wake up early in the morning, I've got to wait to get lifted out of bed. It's only the wife that can do it. I would like to try and get out on my own, but now they're telling me it's too dangerous for you to get out on your own, and you can't do it, and don't do it because you might fall. I said, well, if I fall, I won't do it again. Well, I'll try something else. But I want either try and get some equipment, or for the hospital or whoever they are, to try and compensate me, to give me something so I can get out of bed and get my life back. Because I can't move, I can't get out of bed, I can't move, got no legs. It won't help me.
It's only a word, but it has many connotations. When you said compensate, what do you mean?
No, I don't. I'm worried about blinking. Sorry about that. I'm not worried about money or anything. Really, that's their department, and they can't look after themselves, and they can't look after the patients. I would like them to compensate me with some equipment. And give me somebody to show me how I can get back.
I'm a bit concerned about the use of the word compensate. Compensation is something you get.
I know it's money. I don't.
No. The term compensation means that you're having redress for something that has gone wrong.
That's correct.
Right. So are you blaming the hospital for what has happened to you, notwithstanding the equipment? Are you blaming the hospital, accusing the hospital in your mind of having not treated you properly?
Okay, the district nurses messed me up. The hospital told me they would do it.
Let's do one thing at a time.
This is how it started.
I appreciate that, but
Sorry, go back to your question.
I'm just trying to find out whether you are wanting to bring action for compensation of some sort from the hospital. And bear in mind, compensation means reparation or a financial structure to compensate you for the harm that they have done.
If they will give me that, yes.
No, I'm asking you if that's what you see.
No, I would like
my
something
question,
like that, yes.
No. Let me ask you the question a different way. Do you think the hospital have in some way been negligent when treating you?
The hospital had to do what they had to do.
That's not an answer. Let me ask the question again. Do you think the hospital did something wrong which contributed to the loss of your legs or the operation or what have you? Not since you were discharged, but the treatment they gave you. Do you think there was something negligent or damaging in that treatment?
No, they told me they would have to do that.
I'm asking you what you think. I don't care what they think.
No, I think... Well, I could see what, if I ever can put it, if I can just go back a little bit, I can see what the district nurses were doing to my legs. And I was told by the hospital to take, a consultant in the hospital, to take loads of photographs, daily photographs, and of my wounds. And the hospital told me if the district nurses or the community, whatever I should call them, carried on, 5 consultants told me they would have to take my legs off.
Right.
And on the last occasion, he said, "You're taking it very calmly." I said, "Well, I've been told 5 times." Well,
Okay. So this treatment by the district nurses, who set that in motion? I don't mean person-wise, but how did that come about? District nurses don't think, "Oh, let's go around and see Brian." Somebody tells them to. So what were they treating, and who had diagnosed what they were treating at that time?
Okay, I got a wound on my heel, and I had to get my GP said I had to get the district nurses involved.
Right.
And the hospital said that they were dressing it wrong. And 4 months later, I went. They said they were arguing whether to take my leg off or they wouldn't take my foot off because they wouldn't leave me with a stump. Right. So, but otherwise,
who supplied the district nurses? Who said, "Yes, you can have a district nurse"?
The hospital and the GP.
Well, only one of them will have done it. They won't have sat down and discussed it. Only one of them will have done it.
The hospital discharged me to the district nurse.
This is before you had your legs removed.
Correct, sir, yes.
Right. So the hospital diagnosed you, you were sent to a consultant by your GP, I presume. Am I correct?
Yes, I consult.
Yes. So you went to the consultant. So you went to the hospital. You eventually were before a consultant, and the consultant diagnosed you and set a course of treatment which was to be applied by the district nurse service. Am I right so far?
That's right, sir, yes.
Right. Now, you seem to be suggesting that what the district nurses did was... Now, this is a difficult word, so don't jump in with an answer yet. What the district nurses did was wrong. Now, when I say wrong, I don't mean didn't work. I mean was different to what the consultants said they should do.
Yes, sir, that's right.
That's what happened. So you believe the district nurses did not carry out the instructions that the hospital gave to them. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, yes.
Okay. How long ago was this, roughly?
Within the last 4 years.
Okay. That's not a good time.
Well, I know. I understand that. I've been out of the hospital for 2 years, but it happened. It's been going on for a year or so before then.
So your contention is that you had your legs removed not only because of the condition you had, but because the district nurses didn't do what they were supposed to do.
That's correct, because they used to tell me every time I went for an appointment that they were doing it wrong and they shouldn't do it, and I should tell them they're doing it wrong, and because they couldn't get involved. And I said, I can't tell them they're doing it wrong, but what I'll do is I will pass your message across. And they told me I was being abusive.
Right, so the first day was the hospital told you on your visits to the hospital after you'd been diagnosed and a course of treatment by the district nurses had been instituted, you were told by the hospital that what the district nurses were doing was not the correct thing, yes?
That's right, sir, yes.
Okay. What you're alleging is a case of what falls under the category medical negligence.
That's what I believe it is, but...
Well, with medical negligence, there's no way in the world that you'll make any progress without the help of a specialist lawyer. That's just how the world is. It stinks, but that's how it is. Now,
I know it does so good, does it?
And there's a time limit on bringing medical negligence cases. So I would suggest that you talk to a medical negligence lawyer just to ascertain whether there is what they call a prima facie case, whether there is on the face of it a case. That's not a decision, that's just the medical negligence lawyer will say, no, nothing here, nothing we can do. Or they might say, let's see what we can do. And that's when that side of it will begin. As for the equipment, of course, if you brought a medneg case and it looked like you were going to win it, and these things take years, but what often happens, even though they take years, if it looks like you're going to win it and you have a very strong case, your lawyer can apply for an interim payment, which will then enable you to purchase the different system that you want and need. But I think your next port of call should be a lawyer, a medical negligence lawyer, not just Joe Bloke with LLB after his name, but a lawyer who specialises in this kind of work.
Okay.
Now the process sorry, go on.
Okay. No, you give me some. You're going towards giving me some more pointers.
Well, the bit about the equipment, the NHS has certain equipment. It isn't perfect for every role, but they don't buy equipment often that is custom made for a given individual. They have equipment. You are able, with assistance, to get out of bed, and they will probably perceive that as, well, that's fine. You disagree with it, but that's the way the National Health Service works sometimes.
Yes, that's the way it works, I think.
Well, I mean, it's the way they work. They aren't able. They have a room full of equipment. They give you the one that suits you best.
Okay.
But I think you should. I really think you should talk to a medical negligence lawyer. Now, what they will do, they'll listen to your story. Obviously, they'll take notes, and they will tell you whether they think it is worth pursuing at all. Now, they probably won't tell you on the day because they will seek your medical notes from the hospital so that they have the case in front of them. They know what's gone on. And these medical negligence lawyers can read documents like medical records, which are very complicated and highfalutin things. But I think that's what you need to do. Given that you believe you have not been treated properly by the agents of the hospital. Now, the hospital will probably say, well, we told them what to do. Well, that's fine, but they didn't do it. So, and if you then go to hospital and the hospital say it's getting worse because the treatment you're getting is not as we directed, I'm not a lawyer. I am definitely not a lawyer. But I'd say, well, at that point, they should be doing something about it.
That's understandable, because I was told that all the time when I was going to the clinic appointments. And every time I come out of a clinic appointment, the nurses were coming every day. They used to say to me, what did they say? And I used to tell them, and I used to watch them cut the dressing off, and they used to hold it up and throw it in the bag and say, we don't use that, and drop it in the bag. But they were, and the hospital used to tell me what they were using was wrong, and they said, no, we don't use that, we use this. And but in the end, somebody sat there in front of me and said, had a 20-minute conversation with me, who told me what they were going to do. He also told me that he'd just dictated a letter to all concerned because he wasn't happy. But I don't think that got printed, because I can't find it on my records. because I've asked for copies of my records, and I've got 2 CDs with them. They gave me 2 CDs with all my records on, and I can't find it on there because I know what date it was, but I can't find a copy of that record. So I don't think that was ever. It might have been dictated, but I don't think it was ever printed.
Well, whilst it's still in your mind, keep a note of that occasion, because of course if it doesn't exist, if your solicitor decides the case is worth looking at, then they will look on that date and see what was written down, what the doctor, consultant, what have you, did write down at the end of your conversation.
I'm still got on my appointment letters anyway. That's one thing I have kept, all my appointment letters, so I can find a proper date if I need it, because I've kept them all in date order in a file.
Excellent. Well, your lawyer's going to, in that respect, your lawyer's going to love you, because people often come in with a shopping, a Tesco bag and tip it all on the table and say, "There, I'll pick the bones out of that," as it were. Brian, good luck with it, mate. But make an appointment with a medical negligence lawyer as soon as you can.
Got 2 A4 files with them, Alan, so they probably have a wonderful time with it. But
Indeed.
Thank you very much, Sir. And you take care and stay safe.
Good luck with it. Good luck with it. 0800 218 2255. If you have anything to add to that, please do. I mean, I'm just a broadcaster. I'm not a doctor. How do, Malcolm?
How do? Yeah. I mean, I will add a bit to what you've just said. I think that there's a danger of Britain developing the same problems as America has got in becoming a litigious culture. And I'm not particularly keen on the idea that lawyers should be paid out of my taxes for those kind of cases.
Fine.
That's my attitude. I'd sooner the money went into NHS care.
Well, it is a good attitude, but if the service that is being given is not adequate and somebody suffers a consequence of that, then what are we to do? Just saying, "Oh, well, that's rough."
Well, I think the New Zealand system is better, but anyway, I won't. They get.
Well, the New Zealand system. The New Zealand system is different because in medical negligence cases, they don't have the same adversarial system that we do.
Yeah. Anyway, let's not get into this. I was going to discuss partygate, so I'll stick on that. I mean, I notice it's back in the news again, isn't it? Doesn't seem to be able to go away, this partygate. I mean, with good reason, of course.
Absolutely.
I mean, there were loads of people who were, what was this, rule of 6? We weren't allowed to meet with our grandmas, we weren't allowed to do this, we weren't allowed to do that. And at the same time, as we know, the government officials were blatantly breaking the very rules that they themselves had helped to create. That's the point, isn't it? That's the key point. And apologists for the former Prime Minister are saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter." Well, of course, and the use of the word rules, that's another thing I'm picking up on. When an ordinary person breaks, let's say, a traffic offence, it's not breaking the traffic offence rules, it's breaking the traffic offence laws, and it's breaking the COVID laws. But it seems that the media seems to have adopted this new approach, whereby if a politician breaks the law, then they're breaking the rules, but if an ordinary person breaks the law, they're breaking the law.
Well,
I'm observing that language.
There is a difference, of course, in that some of the allegations levelled against, you referred to the former Prime Minister, one of the allegations being levelled against him presently, which he denies, is that he broke the rules of behaviour, if you like, the code of conduct that ministers of state and prime ministers are required to adhere to. Now, they are rules. Those aren't laws. They are rules. And that's the allegation.
I take your point there, but as far as the COVID regulations are concerned, they're laws. They're not rules, they're laws.
Some were, some weren't, but yes.
Yeah, the laws, and in fact he's already been admitted to one offence, so I don't see why this particular character is so keen to throw up a smoke screen when lawyers for the Cabinet Office believe, rightly or wrongly, that there is a case to answer for. And he's going around making out that he's completely innocent.
Well, we don't know what the lawyers for the Cabinet Office are saying. He has, by all accounts, by reports, sacked the lawyers of the Cabinet Office and engaged his own at public expense because he doesn't have faith in the Cabinet Office lawyers. But we don't know what their advice to him was, the advice that he disagreed. It's easy for people to guess, but we don't actually know.
Yeah, but the point is that I certainly hope the police make a thorough and detailed investigation on the basis of the allegations that have made, and if indeed they decide that this particular individual is guilty of breaking the COVID laws, then I certainly hope that they act in an impartial way and do exactly the same as they did last time. That's my final comment on this matter. Thank you.
That may well be what they'll do. I'll do Tony.
Hi, Alan. You okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. It's about these bikes going up and down the pavements. They're about the size of motorbikes. They're electric and whatever. And they're silent. But they're doing 30 and 40 mile an hour. A lot of them have got two people on. What happens if you get injured by them?
In what respect? If you get injured by them, you are injured. What do you mean beyond that?
You're out of work for 6 months. Who pays out?
Well, if they are deemed to have been negligent, it would be that individual that pays out. But if they do not have insurance, either specifically for the behaviour they're indulging in, or legal insurance on their house insurance, then I'm afraid you might not get a bean.
So why they're not being insured? Why are they allowed to sell them without insurance, or the kids that are driving them not get insurance?
Well, I can't answer as to why the politicians decide what legislation to have, and there is no legislation requiring cyclists to be insured.
But do you think they should be on the pavement going at that speed?
Well, I don't think any cyclist should be on the pavement, but ludicrously, in many cases, it is not a crime to cycle on the pavement.
Yeah, but when you're going at 30 or 40 miles an hour on the things that are the size of motorbikes and they're silent, there's blind people that won't have a clue.
Well, I'm not suggesting that the situation as it is all hokey-dory, but the position is that you don't have to be insured to ride a bicycle. It isn't necessarily against the law to ride a bicycle on the pavement. There is no specific speed limit for riding bicycles that I'm aware of, and so you wouldn't be breaking any speed limit either. If, however, they were on the road on their bicycle, powered or not, they could be prosecuted if they broke the speed limit. A chap was done for cycling at 40 miles an hour in a 30 limit in Oxford on his bicycle. Well, you only ever cycle on a bicycle, so he was done. And we've had the situation, certainly in the past 2 years, where somebody riding recklessly on the footpath on a bicycle collided with a woman and killed her, and he ended up going to jail, if I remember.
Yep. Well,
so there are laws of general that cover what we might call irresponsible behaviour, but there is no specific law that says you can't ride your bicycle on the pavement. Generally, there are some areas where it is the case, but in general circumstance, it appears not to be.
Well, there was something invented a few years ago. They're like skateboards, and they go up just about walking speed, if you like, the size of a skateboard, and they were banned from being on the pavement. So how's this happening with bikes and all that they can at 30, 40 mile an hour?
Well, the legislation is not as up to date with modern behaviour as you would like it to be.
Well, I just think it's madness. When you live on a pavement, you live on a pavement terrace and you step out your front door and you get mown down by them. Especially blind people. And there's no sound from them, there's no warning like a motorbike. Because they're quiet.
Well, as I say, many people would agree with you. But the rules aren't what we want them to be, they are what they are.
So who would you approach to stop it happening?
Well, you can start with
the area you live, or if you like, or countrywide.
Well, you can start with your MP if you're wanting to talk about legislation, for only they have the power to bring law. You can also go to your local authority because they do have the power to issue some restrictions. I'm not altogether sure that they can issue a blanket restriction in regards pavements, but they do have some controls. So you can pester your local authority.
Okay, well, thanks for that. You say you go to Canada for a month?
Say again, sorry?
You go to Canada for a month?
Yes.
Are you going to the French side or the British?
Well, it's not divided in that way. I'm not going to the two major cities that are French. I'm going to the west coast and then going inland a little bit, in Canadian terms a little bit. It's a bloody long way. It'd fall off the edge of Scotland if it was England. But I'm going quite a long way, but not that far. So I'm flying in and out of Vancouver, so I won't be going to Toronto. I thought you might go to the French side.
You like France, don't you?
Well, indeed. Well, part of the reason to go is we have a newborn babe that my wife wants to see in Vancouver. So
right.
So there's partly a going and looking at a wriggling slab of pinkness.
And when are you going?
Beginning of June, anyway. I'm here next week, which is the 4th and 5th of June, and fairly soon thereafter.
And what's the season there? Is that summer, the same as us, or?
Yeah, it's the same as us. It's in the Northern Hemisphere, so it's the same as us.
Okay, Alan, good to talk to you.
And you, Tony, good night. 0800 218 2255. The vision of Canada being in the Southern Hemisphere pleases me. I'll do Simon. I don't know why. I'll do Simon.
Oh, Alan, I want to talk about my own mental illness.
Okay.
I'll start off with the blackout in 1972, and for some reason I started getting right happy. I lived in Scarborough, and I would come back from class, and there were A, B, C, D and E classes. E was a bit first and second years. I was the first year. We'd come over from Bradford. He was Mark. I'm going to say my first three exam results, I come 21st out of 31, 18 out of 31, and then I got 27 out of 31. I thought even that was bad for me in C group. But now we go back to the blackout, and I'm going down with my pals into the yard. I'm thinking I up playground because I'm sort of an academic sort of mind, you know. I'm not any clever things. I like books and all that, and I didn't like playground, but we just stood around having a chat about radios. They're great lads and all, but we got into the playground, and I looked over, and I could still see it, and I thought, I love school, I want to stay here all night. And this is actually starting my mental illness. It's not the start, probably, but it's the start where I'm starting from. And exams were coming up, Easter exams were coming up, and I thought I'll do better this time than what I've just done. You know, garbage, and I thought I'd come 7th or 6th or 5th. Anyway, I came top. And when we came back after Easter, I'd had a great time in Bradford. I'd been to Kiki D's house, you know, because she was a friend of the family, Kiki. And I thought, I'll do right well here. And I didn't expect to, but our lad master came in and said, Simon, you're coming up to the B class. And 5 lads came down, and I was sad to leave my friends behind, and I don't know if it was first day, but I'll sit next to this lad, and this lad is smelt to high heaven, and he had severe incontinence, I found out now, and I thought, I'll sit other side of class. And behind me to my right, I heard a voice saying, hey mate, and I thought he was going to say, welcome to class, he said, and this one hurt me. He said, don't sit there, it stinks, it sort of haunts me, that one. That really haunts me, and so I did sit the other side of class, and this lad was a great lad. And I stick with my lads in C class because they were my mates, but I had to come up from Portsmouth and he was a mate and all that, and some good lads in class.
Well, Simon, I don't wish to rush you, but we're still in 1972, which is 51 years ago. So can we get closer to now?
Yeah, all right then. And it got sort of chronic. I thought I was going to end up like this lad. And, right, and I was a right nice lad. We're in 1974 now, Alan. We're back in Bradford.
Well, if we're going to do it in 2 yearly steps, we'll be here at 1:15. Well, I won't. I finish at 1. So let's come to now. You said you wanted to talk about your own mental illness. I'm not in a position.
I'm talking about a bloody chocolate soldier.
Yeah, well, you can be as witty as you like. It doesn't bother me much. But I've not got the time, patience, or inclination to work through 20 odd years of your tale. I know that's cruel of me. In fact, it's 50 odd years. So you said you wanted to talk about your illness. I'm sure you're alluding to the history that brought it about, but I'd rather talk to you about your life now.
Oh, my life now. Right. Well, the world's going to hell in a handcart. It's going to hell. The human race has been taken over by AI. My dog's just died.
At the moment, none of these things are about your mental state presently. They're just a list of events which you're correct in saying, but you said you wanted to talk about your current mental illness.
No, I didn't. I said to that lady, I said my past.
Well, you're only talking to me, so I don't know what you said to that lady. I only know what you're saying to me, and right now we're not making a deal of progress discussing your mental illness. We've just, the world's going to hell. Well, you're right there. The AI may yet take over, and I'm prepared to believe that your dog has died. So where are we now? What is your mental condition now?
Probably the same as every day. You just get up, do your best, you know. Now it's just getting up and do your best, you know.
Have you been diagnosed recently with any kind of mental illness?
No, I've always self-diagnosed myself, yeah. I used to go to autism.
Have you been diagnosed by a professional recently? rather than your own self-diagnosis, which is possibly more important. But
no, I don't trust them. No.
You don't trust them.
No.
So at the moment you have a mental illness which has not been diagnosed by anybody but you.
Well, I don't think I've got a mental illness. I think the world's crackers.
Right. So when you said you wanted to talk about your mental illness...
We're going to go into World War III, Alan.
Well, that may be so.
We're walking right into it in Taiwan.
That may well be so.
After them microchips.
You may well be so, but what you said was you wanted to talk about your mental illness, and now you're saying you've not got one. So that's kind of the end of the conversation, isn't it? Such is life. How do Andrew?
How do Alan? Vancouver. Yes, it's like a home by the sea. We've got quite a lot of dockland. It's quite subtle today. It used to be sort of there was a huge influx with the hockey team. See, sorry, I'm thinking about the Times. There was the Vancouver Times. It's sort of like you have like dock lane, water lane. And also like a gentrification there in Vancouver. It's like obviously we don't speak French as good as me, which is good. ABC 123, Alan, if you can call one of those things, and I'll call it on point.
I don't know what ABC 123 means.
Well, you can pick one out of every 6.
And okay. why would I want to choose any of them?
Okay, I'll do it random. Okay. Right. AK-47. The sort of indivisible monster, the biggest walker in the world, Kalashnikov. Now, we spoke last time about me being some sort of sympathiser for the Russians and respecting mine. You pushed me on the point. So let's talk about freedom and democracy. So if I landed a few, the SS-42, not the single, Boeing, but if I landed a load of Russian paratroopers...
What is the SS-42?
Hello, finish it, what?
No is the answer. You asked the question, you got your answer. How do Stephen?
Oh, good evening, Al.
Good evening.
Hi. I was listening to you before about the chap. I felt sorry for him, he's got no legs. And, yeah. I think down that route we were talking about, the medical, was it compensation, is it, for... Yeah.
Well, it would be if there was medical negligence, it might be a case of compensation, yes. Financial.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking because I went down that route with my little girl, but, however... to go down that route with solicitors, I mean, it's like hitting a brick wall because they palm you off with other solicitors. They'll say to you, on this occasion, we can't help you, but we suggest you do, to give you a number for the Law Society, and you go for about 30, 40 solicitors, lawyers, whichever, and you get the same answer back, So I would imagine that poor chap, he'd probably get the same dilemma, Unless he's lucky that he may come off a solicitor who will take his case on. It's just difficult, yeah.
Well, what he needs to do is to go to a solicitor, as I said to him, that specialises in medical negligence. Now,
yeah, that's
now if you go to one that does conveyancing, then he or she will be able to do a medical negligence case, but probably wouldn't even embark upon it because it's a very, very complicated thing to do. Plus, you need to have, as a lawyer doing medical negligence, you need to have a relationship with the insurance companies that provide the resources to bring a case. Because bringing a medical negligence case can actually cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. Not many people can afford that. So what the lawyers do, and if a conveyancing lawyer got in touch with a medical negligence insurance or a litigation insurer and said, look, we've got this case, it thinks it's worth pursuing, the litigation insurance will want to know the strength of that case, because they decide whether to fund the case or not on the balance of probabilities of success.
Yeah, that's right, Alan. Yeah, it's a nippy gamble within that field of law, isn't it? That, you know.
Well, I know I don't know whether it's a gamble, but if the case is weak, then the lawyer is going to say, look, I'll still take the case, but you'll have to pay me in advance, because no one's going to give me the money if we lose. Because our system is, and by that I mean in England, our system is when you bring a case, if you win, the other side pays your costs. If you lose, you pay your costs, but you also pay theirs. And it can come to hundreds of thousands of pounds. So
that works on the lines of sexual abuse, that, Alan.
It can work for all sorts. It works for all sorts of cases. It's just that the specifics of medical negligence cases is they are very, very complicated, very long-winded, and not many people can afford to fund their own.
No, you're right there, Alan. You're right.
I know.
How sorry for that chap. To know legs. I mean, God, incapacitated in such a degree, you know, for whatever reason, for the reason he lost his legs. Poor chap. Must be a nightmare for that man. Must be.
It's awful. It's absolutely awful. Well, good to hear from you, Stephen. Thank you for caring. 0800 218 2255. We're here till 1 o'clock. Right now it's 11:05. Here's the late, great various programmes over the past few days since her demise. And God and Bennett, what a life. What? She would, when I got home, she would have conveyed to me her dissatisfaction with my behaviour in a way that I would not have enjoyed. That is for sure. And what do they do these days, kids? What do the parents do? I know what I'm sounding like. I'm sorry, but I do. How do they get away with it? How does any child use a vape without their parents being very, very, very less than pleased? I mean, my mother was a smoker, and she said, she used this expression a lot, if ever I see you with a cigarette, you will regret it. We all knew what that meant. She never did. Bloody terrified. I wouldn't have one now. I'd be terrified. And she's dead. 0800 218 2255. It's a different world, Gilda. It's a different world. That's a quote from Fiddler on the Roof. How do, Glenn?
Hello?
Hello, Glenn.
Oh, I'm not in Blackpool. I'm in Accrington. I'm not in Blackpool. I was from Blackpool last week.
Doesn't matter where you are. You're in a pub.
I'm in a club in Accrington. What are you down there? A lot of big names.
Glenn, I'd love to talk to you more, but I can't with all the palaver that's going on in the background. It's too messy. People will be trying to listen to the conversations going on.
I'll go where it's a bit quiet. I want it.
All right, well, do that then. Perhaps you should have done that before you got through.
Easily. Is that better on?
It is.
Right. What is on? A lot of businesses and shops are struggling. Why is that on? Big high street names shutting down.
Because they don't have enough customers.
Where I work, it's got plenty of customers. So I think I should be all right. But, it's busy every day where I work, but some shops they're closing down, aren't they? A lot of in the past 10, 15 years, a lot of big high street names are gone there. And why is that? Is it because they're not getting customers? Is that right, is it?
Well, it's because they're not making money. Businesses are there to make money. They don't make money, they disappear.
when a business shuts from the employers, when they lose a job, what do you do? What do you do for money and to keep a roof over there?
Who are you referring to?
Obviously, you don't get paid your wage, so what do you do? Where do you get your money from?
Or in benefits, if you're fortunate enough.
But that won't be as much as working, will it?
That is correct, it won't. So it'll be difficult.
It's like, and it's like every week you hear like shops. I'm not making it, but shops closing stores and closing shops. Big high street names, some high street names are completely gone after and collapsed altogether. But is it just people are spending? What is it? I don't understand it because obviously these bins have been going like 50 years, 100 years.
Well, and if a business loses money, then somebody's got to give them that money. That's often the bank or their shareholders, and eventually the bank or the shareholders say, "We're not giving you any more." And they say, well, we can't get it off our customers and we can't pay our bills, so we close. That's what happens.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I'm going on in a few weeks with parents to I get a caravan site in Wales. I do in Wales, North Wales.
I do live in North Wales, yes.
Well, I did Preston, not Cavan Caravan Park. It's up near you.
I know. Well, North Wales is a big place, so not everything is near itself. But I wouldn't know a caravan site anyway. But I'm sure there's.
Yeah, we're going there for a week with my parents in 2 weeks' time. We're going there for a holiday. Right. I have been before. Like it's near the beach, and it's nice side. And so we're going to go there in 2 weeks' time for a week with my parents. Right. So it's a bit. What is on? Is your show finishing in August?
Say again, sorry?
Is your show finishing in August? Is it finishing in August?
We don't know.
All right. So you're not sure exact date, are you know?
Well, we don't. Nobody. It isn't a case we're not sure. Nobody knows the date. What we do know is that this programme, presumably with me presenting it, will be here until the end of August at the earliest. It was going to.
The earliest, so it might go a bit long, you say, yeah?
I'm saying I don't know. So it might, it might not. But
and what are you going to do when you retire? Are you going to have more holidays?
I'll just talk crap to myself rather than to everybody else.
We've had some last 40 years, me, you. And I made friends for your show. And there was a guy came up to me and said, you know, I made friends and he and I keep coming back and then when walking in that street, is it Glenn? I've heard you on before. I've met a lot of good friends for your show, and I've like people text me saying you like hearing me on your radio show. Well, so I must be a very likable person.
Well, in that respect, you must. Certainly better light than I. I've made no friends from it, thank God. But good to hear from you, Glenn. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. What use are friends, I say. 13 million people in this country don't have enough to eat. This is a country where millions more like me have too much to eat, hence our death-inducing blubber. I feel ashamed, not at the size of my waist, but at the disgrace that people in one of the richest countries in the world haven't got enough food. I mean, people in this country, this absolutely fabulous country, but also this extremely wealthy country, are relying on charity to not starve. They require on going to a charity and getting a cardboard box or a couple of carrier bags with enough food to see them through the week. How in the name of God can that be right? How can that be anything other than shaming for the likes of many of us, me included, who've got more food than we need, Indeed, we've got certainly eat more food than we should. It's just horrible. Absolutely horrible. 0800 218 2255. Got something to say? That's good. We're here till 1 o'clock in the morning, so there's plenty of time. And in the meantime, we'll have a look at the Bible wall of sound. There's no space anywhere. Do you know what I mean? There's no room in the song. I like music to have a bit of room in it, and not just a little non-stop until you get to the end of the song and it's gone. I like it to breathe. Yeah. I know. Yes. Listen, they do indeed talk. Pay me to talk this crap. They really, really do. I like this anyway. I like Genesis. You see, space. It's only little spaces. She sings a word, then another word. They don't all go into one like a sort of hum. Just saying, you know, it does. I like songs which have a room to breathe. 0800 218 2255. How do Ian?
Oh,
hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. I wanted to talk about Canada. I believe you're going there shortly.
I am.
Yeah, what it is, I've been to Canada, and when I tell you the tale, I went there with a friend of mine who's a Geordie. And anyway, we went on a sort of a guided tour of the wilderness. And we saw this big animal coming towards us. And my mate says, what's the animal? And the guy said, that's a moose. And my Geordie friend said, that's a moose, how big are your rats?
Very good.
And that's it, Alan.
Well, it's not bad. I mean, we've heard worse on here, I tell you. You might have been better. You might have been better if you said a Scotsman, because they do that. There's a song from years ago. I can't remember who sang it now, but it goes. There's a strange sort of brass sound, and then every so often they say, "Hoots, Mom, there's a moose loose about this hoose." We might so that might have been better.
It's not Billy Connolly, is it?
No, it's not Billy Connolly. No, it's Lord Hootsman. I've just been told by Jason, who knows these kind of things. But yeah, I'm not even sure it's funny. You don't know? There was the other one, wasn't it? I saw a mouse. Where? Yeah, I was in pantomime with him in Blackburn. I wish I could remember his name. Yeah, he was all right. And then he went on to be a Radio 2 presenter for a while. I think it was working with me in pantomime that revived his career. I saw a mouse. Well, Boris. Our Boris. Oh, we so love Boris. He's so much part of the entertainment business. But he promised, you'll remember, 350 million quid a week for the NHS if we voted for Brexit. And we did. He then promised 40 new hospitals by 2030. And we believed him. Although the government's now saying, well, perhaps not 40 and perhaps not by then. I mean, when did we get so stupid to believe what politicians are telling us? And still some people believe every word. Even the bachelors. 3 blokes. I don't know whether they really were, but the story was that they were brothers. And they just stood there and sang with their acoustic guitars. And they were very good for a while. Smile upon me, my darling. Yeah, that one as well. Yeah. Happy days for some. 0800 218 2255. How do James?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello?
What would you like to talk about, James?
Hi. I wanted to talk about there's two people that a bit of advice, really. It's a strange one. There's two people that I know. I've been advised not to name or disclose how I know them, but they're getting a divorce, and they've technically been separated for over a decade, and they're going through the kind of the paperwork stuff of it, all of that kind of malarkey, and I personally know one of the parties to have been extremely abusive emotionally and physically, and isolated this person away from their friends, physically hurt them and abused them, domestic violence and all that kind of really horrible stuff. And that person in the divorce proceedings is sort of still allowed to go ahead and be just as abusive as he was. It's like those legal avenues are there for people to do it. Does that make sense?
It sort of does. Just because they're getting divorced doesn't mean that people cease to be abusive to their partner. Indeed, it is often the case, perhaps they become more abusive.
Yeah, of course. But that I think that's what annoys me the most, and it makes me feel so hopeless. Because I can't help, well, I don't know whichever correct word is, but I can't help at all, and my word means nothing if those both two parties are just as, it's like 50-50, right? And whatever I say is pointless. Because, here's another thing, is that the person who got abused can't argue it in court because they can't afford to argue it in court. Because it costs that much, but they've been advised that it costs like £10,000, and that's just unfeasible. So it's the kind of the preliminary, solicitors sending stuff and talking, and we'll come to an agreement out of court. But in court, the person would lose, right? Because there's proof of the domestic abuse and the violence, all of this stuff.
Well, the idea that, you say domestic abuse and violence, to bring a domestic abuse, nothing to do with the divorce, to bring a domestic abuse or violence case to court is free because it's a crime, and the police are the people that bring criminal cases to court. There's no need for an individual to spend their own money. Now, it'll be up to the police to decide whether there is a case to be brought to court, but domestic abuse and violence, for sure, is a crime. So the allegation of violence is a matter that the police can investigate, and if they think there is sufficient evidence against the accused, bring them to court anyway.
I mean, to be a little less vague on it, I'm helping this person through it, as they can't really read or write very well. They could be intelligent, but just, that's not really a skill. They're completely, they left school at like 12, way back when, they're retired now, sort of thing. And so it's sort of historic. And I don't think they want to drag all that up, most of us, I find them just crying, out of complete stress, and they're still scared of this person. I'm 26, right? So, I'm quite aware of the Me Too movement and these kind of things. Not that old people aren't, right? I'm just saying, you hear about the younger generation are more clued up to these things, right? It's whatever, right? And so they post these kind of big shifts in our society, Because, me personally, I was abused as a child, and Even at school, I remember the primary school. I'm not going to make any name names, but I was hit to the ground in front by an adult. By myself, I think I could say that. In front of teachers, and nothing happened. You know, I've investigated further and whatnot, and as I grew older and all this, and that's just one case of one thing, right? And tried to track down the teachers who saw that thing. And I managed to speak to one, just said, well, we knew what was happening, but couldn't say anything, you know, it couldn't go further, it couldn't, you know. And during COVID, I became friendly with a neighbour because I set up a food bank drive. And that neighbour personally worked in like child welfare in schools and those kind of things. That was the line of work. And she said, you know, we got close and I told her some stories and she told me some stories and she, you know, I think she left that kind of work a few years ago. So she was talking about when I was at primary school, in the early 2000s and whatnot. And she said, that you can post that, even right now, it's still going on, you know. Kids get hit and whatnot. They know they see people slip through the net, right? And I'm off on a tangent. I suppose why I called up, I hadn't called up before, but I've been listening since COVID, and a lot of it show has been like reassuring to me. I think now it's comforting and hearing similar stories in the past with people, and it has given me the courage to be able to talk about it. And I've talked to therapy, counsellors, these kind of things. It's because I have my own troubles and medicated for PTSD and these kind of things. So it sort of breaks my heart to be happening to this person I know. And it's completely, perfectly fine. I guess I guess at the end of the day, I'm annoyed at the injustice. There's just no justice for kind of people. They don't have the money to defend themselves in court, and they don't. And this person is still kind of dominating and controlling their lives. They're not in it. You know, they've been separated for over a decade, but I know what people are going to say. They're going to say you should go to the police. When I say stuff like, even though they're separated so many years ago, I know the other person, the abuser person, has come round and intimidating and go to their workplace and go to their home and stand outside the window. All these kind of intimidating
but James, I mean, you say, I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, call the police, but that is the job of the police, and if one doesn't call them and these things escalate, it's often doesn't have a happy outcome.
I know. I think that's what bothers me so much, because I'm aware of what people say, and you're absolutely right with what you just said. But I think what I'm getting at is the effects of domestic abuse that's just been taken away.
Okay. The line is probably, I'm doing my best to grasp my way through it, but James, the line is atrocious. We could ring you back and get a better line and try to have the conversation further, but as regards your friend or acquaintance who is clearly, from just this standpoint, a victim of stalking and abuse and various things, that's a matter for the coppers, really. But if you want to discuss it further, you please ring back and we'll try and get a better line. How do Jessica?
Hello, Alan. That song, Hoots Man, there's a moose loose about the hoose.
Yes.
It was Lord Rockingham's 11.
Was it?
There's a programme in the 50s called Old Boy on television. It's the one that launched Cliff Richard, when it was Cliff Richard and the Drifters. Yes, I remember it particularly. Is it funny how you can remember that? Yeah, sometimes, just a few weeks ago, you forget them.
I don't know how funny it is, but it's a plague.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's the brain, it's buffering.
I'm trying to think. Dum, da-dum, da-dum. Oh, boy. Dum, da-dum, da-dum. No, that's the other one. That's the Rockingham 11 thing. I was on about the Oh Boy, the signature tune, because that was a song as well. Wasn't it? Oh, boy.
Oh, my kissing. You don't know
you've been missing. Oh, boy. Buddy Holly. The great Bloody Holly. Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
That was his song, Oh Boy. I wanted it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other week when he was saying about Don McLean, you know, the that'll be the day that I die. This will be the day that I die. That's an oblique reference to Bloody Holly, isn't it?
I'm told so.
That'll be the day that I die.
Yep. Woo-hoo. You have to say woohoo.
Woohoo.
But Buddy Holly sang That'll Be the Day.
Yeah.
And very good it was too. I never did see him perform, regrettably. But there you are. Good on you. He was on the London Palladium, I believe. It is weird. I'll do Tracy.
No. All right, Alan.
Yes, thank you.
I've been listening to you for weeks, right, and I've had nothing to talk to you about. I've been like melancholy and in depression. Do you remember the voting? When we went down to vote, it came to an end for me there. I had no ID. Now I've had passports, I've had driving licence, I've done all that, but I don't have any anymore. And I was like, no, you're kidding me. You can't tell me I can't vote. You know what I mean? I don't even vote with any of them. You do it on your feet, don't you, Alan? Right. So, in all my melancholy town hall, Alan.
Have I seen it? Yes.
Have you been in it? Been in it?
I have, yes.
Oh, well, I'll tell you. Can I just brag about Burnley for a minute?
By all means.
Oh, so you go in, and the floor is a mosaic. When you get up the steps, that is. The floor is a mosaic. It's covered by big, giant marble towers. I swear to God, And then in front of you, these beautiful double doors with the most fantastic stained glass. No church can do this, let me tell you. And it's got Burnley motto right in the middle. And it's like, and the smell of the wood and everything. It's a beautiful atmosphere. Now tell me about your town hall.
Well, which one? The town hall in the village I now live, the town hall in Manchester where I worked for a long time, the town hall in Salford where I worked, the town hall in Warrington where I'm from.
Salford. Tell us about Salford.
Well, Salford Town Hall's quite an imposing building.
Tell us about it.
What's
it like when you go in?
Well, it's just like all the others, really.
No. Burnley's got a veranda.
Well, inside
You've got
and out.
a veranda over at River Calder. You're
outside, yeah.
God knows how many feet up you are. That's outside that building. It's a very imposing, very impressive. It's engineering, that. But I bet every town hall you've been in has got something like that.
I don't know whether they've all got a veranda. Most of them, Manchester Town Hall has got a special roadway, a special way of getting from one side of the road to the other. It's got one of those elevated, you might call it an elevated tunnel, which is a contradiction in terms, but it's a walkway. It's got a room full of marble busts of citizens. It's got a very great large hall with artworks all the way around it, done by one of the pre-Raphaelites, a gang called Hunt. So it's quite fancy.
What about where you live in now?
Well, I live in a village now, so it's a much less elaborate
affair.
Are
you Welsh now? Are you Welsh?
No, I'm English. I was born English. I'm still English.
Yeah, but you live in Wales.
I do live in Wales, but that doesn't make me Welsh.
I know you do. You know how I know that? Because I'm a Welsh descendant. I see everything. Well,
right.
Tell me about the town hall where you live now.
No.
You haven't been there, have you?
Well, you can believe that if you wish. Yes, I have, but I don't wish to describe it because that might indicate where I live, and I've no desire to tell anybody.
Oh, no, Alan. Hey, I'm not stalking you. That's the other dude. I'm just saying, haven't we got the most beautiful heritage in the British Isles?
Who's we?
I know you're going to Canada. I hope you have a very safe journey and all that. But get real. You can't beat Britain. You just can't beat Britain.
Well, lots of countries do at various things.
In a lifetime, even if you're a multi-billionaire, you could not see every village, every hamlet, every town, every city. You could not experience all them in a lifetime, as today's lifetimes are. Yeah. Oh, listen. Get on this, Alan. Watch this. Listen to this. You won't believe this. This is somebody else's cat every night. Listen. Hello? Hello? Is that you, pretty cat? It's not my cat.
It's not anybody's at the moment. It seems abjectly silent.
Yeah, stood up because she knows. There you go. Listen. What? Louder. You're not coming in. Yes. He's in.
Nobody knows I'm going to get paid for this.
I know. Well, what else would you be doing? Be honest. Anyway, everybody, you go down to your town hall, enjoy your heritage, and get yourself a vote authority certificate on embossed paper that cannot be cheated. Yo, yeah. Get yourself some. For free. Isn't it, Alan?
It is, yes. It is free.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it might be that one doesn't need to get that because one has photographic identification already, such as a passport or a driving licence.
What kind is that? Something you paid for? And listen, I've had all my ID ripped off many a time. I don't do that stuff, mate. I'm not paying for something to be ripped off. And I think
indeed.
you don't have to pay for stuff like that.
If one wants to drive a motor car or any other vehicle of that ilk, one needs a licence. And that licence these days is a photographic licence, or has a photograph embossed into it, and one can use that as your identification to vote.
No, but Alan, having a driving licence doesn't mean you're fit to drive. I'm telling you,
I wasn't suggesting that it did. I was saying that the driving licence, the modern one with the photograph, is sufficient identification to vote. Whether it confers upon you the ability to drive well or not is an entirely different matter.
Look, I've got embossed paper. To me, that's like having a road stamp. It's come from town hall.
Well, it must be fabulous.
Still voting. I mean, I went down on my feet, and it's offered me that doorstep challenge. You know, I don't like going out, mate. Don't like going out, but yeah.
I rather feel that the doorstep challenge was an expression that was used in an advertisement many years ago. But Tracy, thank you very much indeed for reminding people that when the next election comes round, you will need, as you did on this one, to have photographic ID, and if you don't have it, you will not be permitted to vote. Now, you could say that's unfair because it will limit people's ability to vote or stop some people from voting, and so be it. It may well do so, but you can, as Tracy explained admirably, you can get photographic identity certificate from your town hall, or at least from the electoral agencies, which is usually at the town hall. So there you are. If you choose to. If you can't be asked because you don't want to vote, then I suggest you don't bother. But I'm in favour of everybody voting voluntarily. I'm not sure I'm in favour of compulsory voting. That's another matter altogether. Because it's what do you do with them that don't? I'll do Jacqueline.
Good evening, Alan. Just a couple of quick ones first about the music. Now, Cliff Richard and the Drifters, there was a big stink about that because they had this American group called the Drifters, and they objected to it, and that's why he became Cliff Richard and the
Shadows.
That's
Shadows.
it, yeah. And also the Buddy Holly one, That Is the Day That I Die, that was not reference to his dying. It was Don McLean singing Bye Bye American Pie.
Yeah.
And that was, anyway, let's get back to the original one. In Canada, in the 50s, I don't know whether it was 40s, I know it was 50s, and I don't know whether it was 60s, but you used to have a liquor license. So if you went to the office, you had to present your license, and they used to write it in the book, what you'd bought. And I suppose maybe it was something to do with, no, that's it, you had your limit, you can't do it anymore. Maybe it was to prevent alcoholism, I don't know. But you used to have to have a liquor license.
Right.
Which is very, very good, because I mean, you couldn't buy or borrow somebody's license because it had your name, address, and your date of birth, and your job on this license. And they would write it in the license. Not that it would have made any difference to you if they still had it, because you're not a drinker, aren't you?
I'm not a drinker of alcohol now.
So that's it. So it wouldn't affect you, but that's what they did in Canada.
Well, there you are.
I don't know when it started. I know it was going on in the 50s because I've got a copy of an actual license somewhere around the house, which was a good idea, wasn't it? So if you bought a bottle of something, they would go back the following day. No, you can't have another one because you had one yesterday.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not keen on the state deciding what I should or should not consume generally. I mean, obviously there are rules and regulations and need to be. We don't want people being able to get crack cocaine from the local supermarkets and the like.
Yeah.
But I think the fewer controls a government has over its citizens, the better, in general principle at least. So I'm not sure I would want alcoholic drinks to be rationed in the way you describe.
Well, maybe they had problems.
Well, that may be so, and that may have been a way of resolving those problems. It may also be what you might call a poor man's prohibition. They tried prohibition in the States, and all that managed to do was make the mafia much stronger than it then was.
Everybody made their own speakeasies.
Indeed. So if you control something that people are perfectly comfortable using, then they will merely find a way of doing it illegally, and that doesn't really help.
I don't know whether that, if you went to a bar, that would work. I don't know. I just don't know. I just know about this license. And of course, excuse me, just have to drink a milk. You can't. Well, I think it was just the office where you bought bottles of whiskey or gin or rum or something like that. Well, I just thought you might be interested about what went on in Canada in the 50s. Maybe 40s, maybe...
Yeah, I'm always interested in something I didn't know, and I didn't know that, so now I do. But whether I think it's a good idea or not is an entirely different matter.
As I say, we don't know the reason, do we?
Well, I don't. How would I? I didn't even know it existed until a few moments ago.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting point that I thought I'd let you know because you're going to Canada. And then you can ask somebody, an old wrinkly, what's this about a license? Why did they do it? And then you can find out. It's just something to talk about when you meet the locals.
Well, I don't really talk to people much. I try to avoid talking.
But people know that you're from a different country, so they will talk to you.
Well, they don't if I don't say anything.
Awesome. Okie dokie. Good night.
Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. I really am that antisocial. How do, Fred?
Oh, good evening to you, Alan. How are you?
Awfully well, thank you.
Super duper fine. Yeah, I'm a bowler actually. I go Crown Green bowling virtually every day of the week. And I think you could probably become a very good recruiting sergeant for bowlers. Let me explain what I'm on about. Because I'm 88 years of age, and what I want to say to you now is that so many people who go bowling are in advanced years, and it does keep you very fit indeed, because it's a game that requires physical effort. You've got to use your brain on how you send the wood, and you meet people all the time, and you have to remember names, and you have to score as well. So there are many virtues on playing bowls, and I think maybe you could be an ambassador for bowlers in the UK if you chose to be so.
Well, that would involve me playing the game, and the few occasions I've tried it, I didn't find it particularly interesting, although my dad used to like it.
Yeah. Well, okay. But as years go by, I say we all have to sort of go with life, get on with life, and. I didn't play bowls until I was about 82 years of age when my wife died, and someone sort of told me to get out of the house and do something, have a hobby or do whatever, and so I jagged in my allotment and went bowling instead, and I do think it's a wonderful thing to do. By the way, I do go walking as well, and I do Zoom exercises online, etc. So I do my very, very best to keep clear of ending up in a care home, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to do.
Well, I live alone. I do all my own shopping, all my own cleaning, all my own everything sort of thing. I'm not independent, I suppose. I've got family around me to turn to as and when I require it, but otherwise I get on with my life by getting out and about and keeping fit.
Excellent. It sounds to me like you are an ambassador for Crown Green Bowling.
Well, if I could be, but one thing, all this concern about obesity nowadays, you don't get obese bowlers. You can't become an obese bowler. Otherwise, you'll never be able to bend down and pick up your bowls and pick up the jack to send it. It'd be something beyond your capability. So it does have so many virtues. And increasingly, there are more women playing now. And the thing about having women playing, they make a great deal of effort to sort of look nice on the bowling green, which is an encouraging feature, because us old men, we're inclined just to be very casual in the way we turn out, whereas the women, they're not wearing miniskirts. I'm not sort of saying they're that flamboyant, but otherwise it's very refreshing to be playing against bowlers.
Well, I mean, great, you know. I mean...
Carry on.
I just think it's great. It's interesting that you play with women in the background and you get wood to roll.
Well, the great thing is there are bowling greens everywhere, virtually in every other street corner. People are completely unaware of them. They're tucked out of the way. They're behind hedges or whatever. And but they're all over the damn place. I live in Sale, or Sale Moor to be frank about it, and I play bowls all over Manchester and Salford, etc. Because that's what happens when you're in a bowling team. You're obliged to go wherever the fixtures are.
Indeed.
And so you're travelling around. You're meeting people. It's brilliant. Saves you from going off your head anyway.
Yes, I can see the benefit for many.
Well, I've sort of run out of all the virtues of bowling now, but all I can say is that if anyone is interested who is listening right now and they want to play bowls, there are bowling clubs everywhere you look, and you'd be more than welcome to take it on.
Well, good. I I'm not about to get people to not do. If that is what they want to do, then I say, go on and do it.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Alan. Okay, but I'll come up with some other clever little ideas in the fullness of time and get back onto you.
Okay, thank you. Do have a good night. How do to Balladay?
Good evening, Miss Allan Beswick. Two people have put me on to something I want to say now. Did you know that they had compulsory voting in Australia? I think. I'm not quite sure about that.
Yes.
Compulsory, yes. Your gentleman talking about bowling there. Yeah, he's right. There are bowling alleys all over the place because there's the one near me. My uncle told me.
He's not talking about bowling alleys. He's talking about bowling greens.
Oh, bowling green. Sorry, that's what I meant. Bowling green was a bowling green. And a gentleman was talking about exercise before. I got a text message of somebody who said modern people nowadays, you don't do any exercise anymore because all the time you're sitting down. Because put it this way, you wake up in the morning, you sit down at the table, have your breakfast, then you go out, you probably go to your car, you drive to your office, you get to the office, then when you get to the office, you're going to work, you sit down, so you spend almost about, say, 80% of your time sitting down, and that's very unhealthy for people. That this is what they said, people are obese. That's what this thing says. I don't know, but it's what it said.
Indeed.
People are obese.
Of course, there is a flaw in what you say, in that not everybody works in an office.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah. Some people work outside and they're lifting stuff, so basically they wouldn't fall into that category. Then I had another thing to say. What was I going to say now? Oh, yes. We're going to talk about, you don't watch movies on Netflix, do you?
From time to time, yes.
Okay. There's one going on now. Actually, it's a documentary, it's a series. It's about Cleopatra. And somebody brought it up that, black people are trying to appropriate Egyptian culture to talk that they're wrong. So I watched it yesterday and I thought, hang on. That person playing Cleopatra there isn't black. Plus, we don't know much about her anyway, so they could have got anybody to play her. You would have fit in there because basically, if they tell you about her, she's got all this ancestry that could come in. Plus the fact that the Egyptian history almost goes back 7,000 years, which most of it is lost. So the people in Egypt now don't have a connect going back to the history of Egypt to 7,000 years ago. They don't, because to start with, the hieroglyphics in that they write down in all the pyramids and all them, the present day people can't read it. They don't know what it is because they've lost it. Anyway, so that's my on that one. Then a bit of a moan, because you're going away and I want a moan. Yesterday, I ordered my breakfast from home because I was eating out. So then I said, okay, I'm going to go to the till machine, get my money, and then go and get my food. So I'm there. There's two people in front of me, two ladies. I won't say anything more about them. So the first one was on the machine. She couldn't work it properly. He said, put your money in. I thought, hang on. The machine never says that. Then it says, oh, your pin's wrong. Then she's come off the machine. The lady behind her went on the machine and got her money out, I think.
Can we just establish, so that I can understand the story much better, what sort of a machine it was?
Oh, an ATM machine.
Ah, right, an ATM, right.
Okay, ATM machine. So there's two people in front of me. So one's on the machine. She's had trouble with it. She's come off. Her friend, I think it was her friend, because they were talking later on. She went on it, got her money out. Then the person that was on it first, she didn't tell anything to us. She just went right back on it and put her card back. And I said, excuse me, ma'am. You can't do that. My breakfast is going cold, and you've just done that. And we're waiting, and you never said anything to us. And in fact, I really wanted to do something. I thought, you know what, if you do something, you'll be in trouble, and your breakfast will really go cold. So I just thought, you know what, I'll just have a moan about it. What I was going to do was, go to the machine, press cancel, take a card out, and give it to her. And I thought that would be a bit of an extreme act to do, because then, I don't know, maybe others might get involved in saying, you've gone a bit too far on that. But I thought at the time, you couldn't tell her that, oh, excuse me, that I went with the machine, could I use it again? You never said that. You just went back in and used it, and I felt, that was a bit arrogant, and what's the word to say? What's the other word I'm looking for now?
I don't know.
Exactly. So I just felt, can people do it? Is that right? So something to do, because I would have said, if that was me, I would say, oh, come off and say, excuse me, I haven't finished there, could I go back on? And depending on what people say, that's what you do. She just came on, stood on the side, and just went back on the machine. I felt, that's very disrespectful. Anyway, when you go away, you have a lovely time in Canada.
I have a lovely time wherever I go. Even if I don't go anywhere, I have a lovely time. I have a charmed life. But thank you. How do Margaret?
Oh, I wasn't expecting you then. I'm only ringing about, you were on about singers earlier on.
Aye.
You mentioned that song, There's a Noose Loose in the House. And then you mentioned the Ronnie Hilton one. And that's who I'm saying. You said you were in pantomime with...
Yes.
You said you remember who it was, and I think it must have been Ronnie Hilton.
Yeah, it was Ronnie. Did I not say?
Sorry?
Did I not say his name when I was talking about him?
I remember his name, and I thought, well, it's got to be Ronnie Hilton, so I was just sat here talking to
Well, it was. We were in Panto in Blackburn.
In Blackburn? All right. I always remember when Ronnie Hilton, I mean, he was a bloody good singer. I quite enjoyed him. But I remember the old programme on the telly, Wheeltappers and Shunters.
I do, yes. Bernard Manning.
And he was
Norman Collier.
Oh, yes, he was funny. It was a very funny programme.
It was.
But he was introducing Ronnie Hilton, as a guest artist, and he said, don't forget this lad that's coming on now. If there's ever a war on, live next door to him, because he's never had a hit in his life.
That's a Bernard Manning style of joke, that is, yes.
I always remember it, but he was a damn good singer, that's all I wanted to say, really.
Yeah, he was. It was all right, Ronnie, yeah.
I had a bit of trouble getting through to you tonight, I don't know.
Oh, good Lord. How odd. I said, how odd, it's usually quite easy.
Yeah, but well answered me. I did say to him when he answered me, he sounded quite stern.
That's fair enough. He's got a lot on.
Well, I mean, I haven't phoned up for a few weeks recently, but I usually get somebody like Talek or... so I don't know who's on tonight, but I said to him, you do sound a bit stern. And he said, I apologise. And then the phone went down.
Oh.
So, whether he's got out of the wrong bed, out of the bed this morning, I don't know.
Well, he should have got over it by now, shouldn't he, for crying out loud?
Anyway, it was Ronnie Hilton.
Thank you. We'll have Marlon put in the stocks, if that suits you. Is that all right?
Well, I didn't know it was Marlon.
Well, it is, so he's going in the stocks. And it's all because of you. Have a good night, you Margaret. 0800 218 2255. How do Sam?
Hi, Alan. I read an article online. They've discovered some 5,000 new species in the Pacific Ocean, and they're gonna have to name all these species. And if I'm not, so they're gonna have to name all of them. It'd be cool if you could suggest some names. It's hard to come up with so many names. I mean, obviously they will look at the animal, whatever they find, they'll have a look, and then they probably give a name based on the look of it. But then it'd be cool if there was a suggestion box where you could give it some names, people can suggest names.
Do you have any?
Yeah. I have quite a few, to be honest. I would actually, it's not that. I mean, I could go up to 20 names, but then I'll struggle after 20.
Well, give us your first 5.
Ruba, Lillian.
Why have you moved away from the microphone? Are you ashamed
Tango.
of them?
Tango.
Tango,
The last
indeed.
one is, yeah. But then obviously I'd have to see the species. Maybe I'll try to be a bit smart and find something creative while looking at that. Whatever.
I mean, I saw the story and the colour photographs of some of the creatures, and frankly, they just look like jellyfish.
No, not all of them. Some of them look like...
out of 5,000, they aren't all going to look like jellyfish, but...
No, there were some really interesting ones, Alan, honestly. There was one...
Jellyfish might be interesting. Don't be rude about jellyfish.
Yeah, they are. Jellyfish, what they do, so basically they live forever, and so when they get old...
They don't live forever.
Something down them lines, they get young again.
Well, they don't live forever. I've seen them on the beach when I was a kid. We used to drop bricks on them. They didn't survive that.
Well, if they can survive if they avoid your bricks, they probably would live forever. Natural disasters.
They don't live forever. They don't live forever.
If they avoid natural disasters and they avoid man-made disasters...
No, they don't live forever.
I didn't know. Well,
do you know how I know? Do you know how I know they don't live forever?
Yeah.
Because they breed.
Okay.
And if you don't breed, you can live forever, because the only reason we breed is to pass on our genes, our genetic material, to the next generation. It's where the word genetic comes from, as it happens, more or less. And so, if you don't need to do that, you can live forever. But if you don't live forever, then before you die, you need to pass on your genetic material. So, they don't live forever and the evidence is that they breed.
So who's immortal then?
Well, no person, because who refers to people, and no creature.
What?
Even trees die eventually.
Yeah, trees do live for a while. Alan, I'm pretty sure I read an article that said some jellyfishes are immortal.
All right. Well, whoever wrote the articles are prat.
Yeah. Did you watch Luton get promoted? They went from League One. They went from like the lower league, like the lowest league. I think that's League One, all the way to the Premier League now. Which is they were people.
Well, to watch that, you would have to watch for a very long time, wouldn't you? That's about 4 years of watching.
What, Luton?
If they went from the lowest league to the Premiership, then one presumes that's happened over a series of years. You don't do it in one fell swoop. So you'd have to be.
Possibly a decade.
I'm sorry?
I didn't know. It could be a decade or 2 decades.
Well, I don't know how long, but you could only do it a year at a time, a season at a time, and that covers a year. You only get one season. Although they span over the edge of a year, you only get one season per year, as it were. So if you're going from the lowest league to the Premier League, it's going to take a number of steps. So to say, did I watch Luton go from the first division
I
to
never
the
said
Premiership?
I watched them. I said did
No, you didn't. You asked me if I did, and I was explaining why it would be impossible for me to do so.
Oh, okay, being smart. Yeah, well,
I wasn't being... Sam, I wasn't being smart. I'd fallen into the stupid trap of answering your bloody stupid question.
No, what I meant was, did you see on the news that it was a big match, Luton against Coventry? They got promoted, and I had a feeling they were a very good team when we played them. And then I realized.
Have you finished the question yet?
No, yeah, you said it might take 4 years, at least 4 years.
Oh, you're asking the question again in the hope of getting a different answer?
No, you. So what? Basically, you said it will take at least a minimum of 4 years in order for me to see them.
Had you just said to me, Sam, I mean, it's not for me to teach you how to ask a question, but I'll give it a go. Mankind has failed to teach you thus far, but I'll give it a go. When you ask a question, it's best to limit it and just say, did you watch the match in which Luton beat Coventry and thus got promoted? That's one question you could have asked.
Okay,
did you watch
the...
well, not finished the lesson yet. You'll never bloody learn if you don't shut up. So then you could have asked, did you watch the news report about Luton and how they have progressed from the lower division and today won a match that takes them into the first division? You see, that's a person can answer that question. But the question you asked was, did you watch Luton go from the first division to the Premiership? Now, that's a difficult question to answer unless you've actually spent a number of years of your life watching Luton and their progress.
Oh, that's very true, Alan. That's because
I know it's true. I'm teaching you. This is my role here.
It's like I wasn't going to speak about football today.
And yet you did.
Yeah, that's because it'd be nice. Yeah, after
I think you should confine yourself to the perpetual life of a jellyfish, who'd probably be able to answer the question you asked, or at least be able to ask it better. But do have a good night. I'll do, Robert.
Good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
I just want to talk to you about food banks, Alan.
Okay.
They're accessible to a lot of people, but these people who are accessing them, they smoke a drink, and why should they get access to food banks when they smoke a drink?
I feel sure. I have to say I've only been in a food bank once, and then I was just looking at how it happened. I wasn't getting any free food. But frankly, I don't have enough knowledge to say that they all smell of drink, and quite frankly, I'm prepared to guess that they don't.
Well, why all of a sudden food banks all of a sudden become quite the norm?
Because insufficient money that people have means that they need help. all sorts of things have happened, including in the recent months, extraordinarily fast inflation, which means that food prices have, in some cases, doubled, and people don't have the money for that.
So how's it corrected then when we didn't have food banks 20 years ago? Oh, we did.
Exactly.
But they were not to the scale we have at the minute.
Well, the problem wasn't as great then as it is now.
Why should it be that that's the case when we're the fifth richest country in the world?
Well, the answer to that is a political answer, in that it has been allowed to get like that by, in truth, various governments around the world. But it is what it is. And inflation is running riot at the moment. They were celebrating on the news last evening because they were able to say that inflation has once again dropped below 10%. So inflation has played havoc with people's ability to buy food. The welfare benefits system has been restricted in such a way that people on welfare benefits often don't have enough money to buy food for them and their children. So the answer to your question, why do we have so many food banks, is because so many people don't have enough money to buy food.
But they continue to put, for those people who've got a mortgage, they continue to put the mortgage interest rates up, which takes more money out of people's pockets.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Hence the growing need for food banks. The interest rate has just gone up again by 0.5%. And that is the Bank of England's attempt, a somewhat stymied attempt in many people's view, but the Bank of England's attempt to reduce inflation. So they increase...
And what would happen... Sorry, Alan. What would happen if they shut all the food banks down?
I don't know what would happen. I suspect that people would suffer... I don't know what would happen, but I suspect people would suffer even greater hardship than they're doing now.
Well, 20 years ago, there weren't people going to food banks.
20 years ago, the economy was in a better state than it is today. And yes, they were. You said a few moments ago, a few moments ago, Robert, you said there weren't food banks 20 years ago, and then you corrected yourself and said, well, yes, there were, but not as many. And now you seem to be saying again that there weren't any. Which is it?
Well, no, what I was saying, there's always been some sort of help, food-wise. Even in the war days, there's always been help food-wise. But these food banks, they're all over the place.
Yes, isn't that shaming that they are needed?
Of this country, yeah. Well, we all pay massive taxes.
We do pay massive taxes. We do.
And then we pay out 268 million for a crowning of a king.
Indeed. And you may...
Where's the sense in that?
I'm not in a position to address whether it is sensible, but you describe the situation admirably. We spend a lot of money on things that some people think we ought not to be spending it on.
So what do you think we should be spending it on?
I don't know. I'm not clever enough to know.
Well, you're clever enough to voice an opinion, surely.
Well, I wasn't doing, so clearly I'm not.
Well, do you think these food banks should be shut down and then leave it up to the government then to sort it out?
The difficulty there is... I'm sorry, I thought you'd finished the question. I'm sorry, I started to answer the question. I thought you'd finished it when you stopped speaking, but clearly I don't understand.
Sorry.
Try it again. I don't know what the question was now, because I spoke over the second half of it, having thought that I'd heard all of it. So please ask it again if you wish.
Well, shut the food banks down.
That's not a question, that's a statement.
They should all be shut down. Shut them all down. Because if the government can't support the people of this country, the fifth wealthiest country in the world, it's a poo-a-doo. Shut them all down. Never mind all this donation and people having to shame themselves going to food banks. Shut it down. Pay the people correctly. Pay the welfare system. Increase the welfare so people can afford to live. Get shut of all these food banks. It's ridiculous.
Do you think if the food banks did close down, that the government would then say, oh, well, all right, then we'll give you more money?
Well, that's up to the government.
I know. I'm just asking you. I'm just asking you your opinion.
Well, I asked you all your opinion before, Alan.
And I said I don't have one. Are you telling me you don't have one either? Even though you're expounding a process, you don't have an opinion on the outcome of it.
No, I've got an opinion. I've got an opinion.
So I'll ask again. I'll ask again then in the hope of gleaning it. If all the food banks closed down, do you think the government would say, OK, then the poor can have more money?
No, I think exactly that. And that's what this country needs, is to treat people properly.
I'm not bright enough to decipher your answer. Do you think the government would say, OK, the poor can have more money, or do you think they'd just leave it as it is?
I just think that the government should treat people
I know what you think they should do. I'm trying to find out what you think would happen if the action you're suggesting were implemented. So I'll ask again. If the food banks all closed down, do you think the government would say, OK, the poor can have more money?
That's not for me to say.
It's not, you're right. I tell you what is for you to say, Robert, and that is good night. I'll do Eileen.
Hiya.
I remember you. I don't trust you. Get off. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say. You can talk about anything. I just said get off. But T-Rex say, get on. Oh, how jolly good. 0800 218 2255. It's 20 to 1. We're here till 1. There's a bit of time if you want to have a go. I'll do David.
Hello, Alan. I'm actually quite disturbed right now because I've just been online and there's a YouTube thing that I've been watching that's meant to be about like Christianity, and it gives information about how people should convert and become a Christian. And what we've got here, it's like a hotline where people are supposed to come in and be converted. And I just cannot believe how insane it is. People call in and they just say the most monstrous things. And the person running the stream, I won't say the name, but he basically...
Get off. You want to advertise something? Go and do it somewhere else. 0800 218 2255. Want to join us? You can. Pick up your phone. Have your say. I'm not here to discuss other people's programmes, for crying out loud. No, I didn't say I've got standards. Well, I'm not an idiot. 0800 okay, maybe I am, but I'm not a very patient one. If you want to join us, you can. In the meantime, we'll have a quick shufty at the front pages of the Sunday newspapers. Holly, this is the Star on the Sunday paper. Yeah, they're all still going on about these two. Holly, I'm so hurt Phil lied to me. Willoughby blast at Schofield betrayal as show faces the chop. Oh dear, programme might go. I do sod all between 9 and 12. I could talk boring crap. I do it here easy enough. Sunday Express, we can cut migration and thrive. Braverman insists Brexit will allow Britain to forge its own way in the world. It's just not happened yet. Computer meltdown causes half-term hell. And they reckon that IT is going to take over the world. They can't even run BA's... Well, it wasn't BA, was it? It was the immigration thing. Yeah, I know. Crazy. The Independent, Holly Willibble says... Holly Willibble. That's a good name. We should call her Holly Wibble. Holly Willibble. Henceforth, Holly Willoughby says, very hurtful to discover Schofield lied to her about affair with colleague. Who cares? What's he got to do with her? They only work together, for God's sake. She's not his wife, or he her husband, or they're not even together. In fact, they're definitely not now. This is the Independent on Sunday, by the way. Revealed 3 Tory MPs claimed driving fines on expenses. Oh, my God. A Tory minister who served under Suella Braverman and his whole bloody department at the Home Office is among a string of high-profile MPs to have wrongly claimed hundreds of pounds in driving fines on expenses. Not much of a bloody punishment if we're paying for it, is it? Dear God, what's going on? 0800 218 2255. The Observer's ministers in a bitter fight to halt the release of COVID details, because that's going to go Perry. NHS patients' data sent to Facebook in a major breach. So now the whole world will know about your warts, and worse still, where they are. Sunday Mirror. Now ITV is set to axe this morning. It's too bloody late. We've had this morning. They could axe tomorrow morning if they were really powerful, but you can't axe not this morning. Oh, they mean the programme. Right, don't axe it. Give me the job. Yeah, I'll perk it up. Yeah, right, that'll happen. Kate and the Killer. That's what it says here. No, I don't know what it means. The boss at one of the Prince of Wales charities is a convicted murderer. Murder. Do you remember that trail for a programme? Murder. The Sunday Telegraph. Sunak asks stores to cap basic food prices. But did he say please? So if you don't say please, he won't do it. They won't do it if you don't say please. The Trans Lobby Group helped the NHS to plan treatment for children. And Labour vows to get tough on migrant job visas. Sunday People, ITV to axe this morning. And The Sun, Holly, Phil lied to me. It's terrible, isn't it? Poor lass. Sunday Times, Starmer to ban new drilling in the North Sea. Eco King turns down the heat at the Palace Pool. Ooh, how butch. And victims of the £10 billion narco state created by Assad seek help on Harley Street. Blimey, they've got cash. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's fine. Just feel free. I'll do to David again.
Yeah, one of your call handlers has said that they wanted to tell you to clarify.
I don't care what they tell you. I don't care what they told you. You just tell me what you're going to talk about, but don't go mentioning other agencies.
Well, you're doing it again. I'm saying that I wasn't trying to advertise anything. It was
Goodbye. If you want to argue with me, fine. If you don't, fine. You're gone. And you're staying gone this time. Let's say milk persons. It's historic. They were milkmen and postmen. They used to whistle as they went jollily about their routes. But no, it's all... Well, milkmen don't exist anymore, do they, to all intents? Yeah, we get it from Co-op or Tesco. I've got to name them all now. I can't be bothered. How do Oscar?
Hello, Alan. Sign me up for the Crown Green Bowling, by the way. Sounds an absolute delight.
I'm sure thousands have already done exactly that.
Yes, and we did notice the little comment there about the woods, just as a guy was mentioning about ladies participating in Crown Green Bowling, but I assume you were just referring to the tools of the trade.
Oh, very good. I was, yes. They are called the woods.
Yes. But anyway, that wasn't why I called. There's been a couple of mentions of wealth inequality during the course of the programme, once by yourself a little earlier on, and then we had a chap talking about food banks, which kind of raised the same sort of issue. There is a lot of wealth inequality in the country, certainly, at the moment, and we are quite a wealthy country, so it's true what you were saying, but I wonder if you've ever considered, I know it's kind of hypothetical, but if we could gather in every penny of money and every penny of wealth that's out there floating around in this rich country and put it all into a pot, and then take I don't know how many the population of the country is now, 70 million or thereabouts, and distribute evenly a portion from the pot of an equal amount to each of the 70 million individuals in the country, so that you've created a total wealth equality situation throughout the country. And then you went away, or looked away, for a few years. Maybe you went off to the Tierra del Fuego or something like that and spent a few years there in isolation, and then came back a few years later. What do you think the situation would look like? Do you think that you would still find that each of the 70 million people in the country would still have the same amount of money and the same amount of wealth as they had done when you had done a complete redistribution of all the wealth? Or do you think that some of the people who had most of the wealth when you did that act would now be more wealthy again, and some of the people who were poorer and going to food banks and that sort of thing would now be poorer again?
Well, there are all sorts of questions. You said it was hypothetical, so it doesn't take too much examination. For sure, when you came back, the distribution of that wealth would no longer be equal. I suspect the people who currently own a lot of it still would, but it wouldn't be exclusively so, because of course a lot of people who have nothing because they've never really had the opportunity to get something, and when they get that opportunity they may well be very good at it. And of course you have to, if you give everybody an equal amount of the cash in the country, then you've got to start looking at the assets. If you distribute the assets, you've then got to start, okay, but then there's got to be commerce, because you could give everybody a plot of land and nothing else, disregard money altogether, and then they would have to barter the goods that they can produce on that land. So it would change. It wouldn't be the same when you come back. Whether it would be as inequitable as it is presently, I don't know, because we've got to this position over centuries, indeed millennia. But it's certainly, if everybody had 50 quid, I don't know what the figure would be, but if everybody had 50 quid's worth, or their 70 millionth proportion of society's wealth, then somebody at some point would have to spend some of that to get something from somebody else. Food, for example. So it would change. We would turn into a commercial business, a commercial entity, as indeed we are now.
Right. Okay, well, I mean, I was trying to stress that it's a hypothetical situation, so I would say that the wealth, sure. So the wealth as well as the money, I will be in this scenario. I'm talking about you can completely redistribute everything. So assets and everything, you redistribute everything evenly among the however many millions of individuals there are. Obviously, as you say, you're absolutely correct that what the situation we're in now is what's developed over a long period of time, and if you went away for 5 years or 10 years and came back, then that's not as long a period as the period that it's taken to get us to where we are now. But I suspect that you would find that when you came back after that period of time, that there is a very strong correlation between the people who would be richer then at the end of the period are going to be the same people who are the richer ones now. And I think that is because some people are just better at doing the things that are necessary to do in order to become wealthy, to become successful. And
well, sorry, go on.
Well, I'd almost finished really, but that I think that's what you would find. I think some people are just not productive, and maybe you can argue that society should sort of, we're in an advanced and sophisticated society now, so you can take all that into account and say somehow you should be able to provide enough for the ones that are just not very good at producing things or generating wealth or earning incomes and that sort of thing. But to an extent, I think you can say that the poorer people are poorer because they deserve to be poorer. They just haven't made the effort sometimes to learn how to be successful in life, and that's been down to their own personal choices.
That's like saying that the teams, whether it's football, rugby, cricket or whatever, at the bottom are there because they deserve to be, because they haven't mastered their skills as sufficiently well as those that win. But of course, that's a self-perpetuating theory, because there will always be somebody that wins the game, or almost always, and almost always there'll be somebody that loses the game. So that is an inevitable outcome of sport, if you like, of competitive sport. The same with the distribution of wealth. One of the things that would change is there would be nobody there sitting on his backside doing absolutely nothing because he inherited 10,000 times more wealth than his share would normally permit. So that would be eradicated. So that's a starting point for sure. And yes, there would be people who would, without a doubt, say we need to do something about that. But then we have to consider what the societorial rules are. In your game, for want of a better expression, your posset, yes, some people would be successful, but we then have to say what would be the rules under which they would be successful. There will be some people who will sneak into your house and steal your share, and then go to a house a few doors down and steal theirs. So he or she would be wealthier than those two, not because of the incompetence of the two, but because of his disregard for their right to keep their wealth. He'll go and steal it, and he'll come back and he'll be quite wealthy. And he might then decide, or she might then decide, that, well, here's these two people who've got no money. I'll get them to do something for me. I'll get them to make, I don't know, clothes pegs, because we'll all be washing our own clothes then, and they'll make clothes pegs, and I'll sell those clothes pegs for more than I pay them to make them, and he'll get a little bit more wealth. So of course it will change. What you have to do is find a way of controlling it, and at the moment the control seems to be that the rich must be protected at all cost because they are, quote, the wealth generators, and the poor, well, quite frankly, they can get food from the food bank. Who cares?
Well, but what you described there as society kind of setting rules, that should apply now, shouldn't it, really?
Well, it does apply now. The rules aren't necessarily to everybody's taste.
Yeah. Well,
why should a billionaire be able to live here, enjoy living here, but pay his or her taxes in a different land where the taxes are less than they are here? Why should that be allowed? Some say because if you don't allow him, he'll take his money and bugger off. No, he won't. But that's the argument they make. It's cobblers.
The taxation is, yeah. I mean, if he's following the rules, you see, when he pays his taxes somewhere else or whatever, or doesn't pay taxes at all because he wangles it somehow, then those are the things that we would ideally need to examine. I honestly do think that we could make a much better effort to make a distinction between people who are wealthy because they deserve to be wealthy and those who are wealthy because they are scamming people or stealing from people or swindling people. The undeserving rich and the deserving rich. If someone...
Methinks there are very few people that deserve to be wealthy, but there are certainly people who deserve to be better off than others. Good to talk to you, Oscar. We haven't a lot of time. How do Lillian?
Oh, hello, Alan. I'm just so happy. I left my hometown of Morecambe. I went to live in Bury for 57 years. And then I used to listen to you on Radio Manchester. And today I found you on Radio Lancashire.
Oh, aye.
And it just made me so happy because I'm a young lady of 13 times 7 minus 2, which is only young, of course. But, I mean, you were just so funny, but I'm loving the fact that you're playing music.
Yeah, a little bit of music.
Do you normally do that?
Yes, each weekend I do this programme on a Saturday and a Sunday night, and we do interfere with the conversation of the programme to play a bit of music from time to time, yes.
So you do this on Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah.
Because I never watch television, I'll be quite honest.
I don't blame you. There's nothing but tripe on it, love. I'm sorry to rush you, but the programme's coming to an end. You can hear a piece of music in the background. We play this at the end of the programme, both Saturday night and Sunday night. If you want to give us a ring tonight, Sunday from 10 o'clock, you're more than welcome, as indeed is everybody else. But that's it for tonight. We will be back tonight, as it were. That's 2 tonights in one sentence. How very confusing. I'm Beswick. You've been brilliant. Till tonight at 10. Have a good one. Ta-ra.
The BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Richard Lawson. Luton Town football fans are celebrating their team being promoted to the Premier League after the playoff final against Coventry City went to penalties. It's the first time that Luton have been in the top flight in the Premier League era, having been relegated the season before it began in 1992. Well, these fans were over the moon.
The best ever. My dad has dreamt of this for years and years, and oh my God, to get there. And then,
a dream for him.
Absolute dream.
Yeah, it was unreal. They did so well.
Absolute scenes, and that's what Luton's about, really.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Dream come true. Hard games, a battle to get out. Never believed it. So it's just unbelievable.
7 people have been charged with the attempted murder of a senior police officer in Northern Ireland. Detective Chief Inspector John Caldwell was shot at a sports centre in Omagh in February in front of his young son. The men, aged between 28 and 72, are due to appear before magistrates on Monday. The Home Office says a fault with electronic gates at passport control, which caused serious delays for travellers, has now been fixed. The disruption affecting airports across the UK led to long queues at the start of what is half-term for many. The presenter of ITV's This Morning, Holly Willoughby, has released a statement saying she was very hurt to hear that Philip Schofield had lied to her about an affair he'd had with a younger male colleague. Mr Schofield resigned from the broadcaster on Friday. Here's our correspondent, Catherine da Costa.
In a statement on her Instagram account, Holly said, "It's taken time to process yesterday's news. When reports of this relationship first surfaced, I asked Phil directly if this was true, and he told me it was not. It's been very hurtful," she says, "to now find out that this was a lie."
The French courtroom drama Anatomy of a Fall has won the prestigious Palme d'Or Prize at the 76th Cannes Film Festival. Its director, Justine Triet, becomes just the 3rd woman to win the top honour, as Claire Runacres now reports.
Anatomy of a Fall is a courtroom psychothriller. It stars the German actress Sandra Hüller as a successful novelist accused of killing her husband at a chalet in the French Alps, which they've bought to repair their relationship. The only witness to the murder, their blind son. Unusually, Hüller also stars in the runner-up Grand Jury Prize winner Zone of Interest. That film follows family life in the concentration camp Auschwitz. She plays the commandant's wife. It's the work of the British director Jonathan Glazer, known for Sexy Beast and Under the Skin, and is based on a novel by Martin Amis.
In sport, Chelsea have won the Women's Super League for the 4th time in a row, holding off the challenge of Manchester United on the final day. A 3-0 win at Reading saw them finish 2 points clear of United to complete a league and cup double. And that's the BBC News. The time now coming up to 3 minutes past 1. I'll have more for you at 2.